Welcome to the Pass and Go podcast. I'm Michael Melfa, co-founder of Boardwalk Insurance. I'm joined here by Andrew Nguyen, other co-founder of Boardwalk Insurance, and of course, our producer, Stefano.
How's it going, guys?
Good. So now, Boardwalk Insurance. What started the journey for you both with Boardwalk Insurance?
Andrew, you want to tackle that one? You want me to jump in?
I think you can start this one off. I mean, start off with why you started it. I think that is a great segue into me.
Absolutely. Insurance is something that most people really don't feel too passionate about, but it was something I was definitely passionate about. And it was something that I felt was an underserved area. It was an area where there was lots of opportunity for improvement. Where is that improvement? Where we saw it was automation through technology. And Andrew's going to shed some story on that. But the other big component of that was the customer service component. The customer service, giving clients, access to expertise, guidance, and transparency. It's a very black box insurance. And most business owners, and that's who we serve, don't really know, and even individuals don't really know how insurance works and what's going on behind the scenes. So we wanted to kind of peel back that veil and really deliver a seamless customer experience using people, technology, and the right partnerships.
Yeah, I think it's important to, walk our audience through our journey. How we, went from being producers to starting up this brokerages, some of the challenges that we've encountered, and really kind of put a little bit of spotlight on some of the interesting things, innovative things that we're doing here at Boardwalk Insurance, right? Some of the technology that we've built. I think it's pretty exciting. I mean, it'll be interesting to talk about some of the stories we've had, some of the sleepless nights that we've had, essentially drawing up wireframes on napkins at Starbucks. So I think the audience would really enjoy that, that journey that we've had over the last 5 years now.
Well, why don't we start the journey exactly where the early mistakes, expensive lessons, and near misses actually started?
Yeah. So
where do we start here?
so really, it all started on a bike ride. Should we go?
Yeah.
So it all started, and believe it or not, Andrew and I happened to we had a get together at the harbor front, and we were riding our bikes together. We actually worked together, but this was the first time we actually were able to speak outside of work. And we started sharing some of our goals, aspirations, and dreams. And what really struck me was, we had this guy, myself. I was super driven, super passionate about brokering, about building a team of really good brokers and delivering those client experiences that were missing in the industry. And then I met Andrew, and Andrew was all about using technology to facilitate this, and he was deep into the tech space long before, AI became where AI was. This was probably 6-7 years ago now. We were starting these discussions.
Yeah.
And, so we kind of started talking about that on this bike ride. And then what happened is we decided to speak about it a little bit more, and we started meeting regularly. Mm-hmm. Where were we meeting, Andrew?
Starbucks. And I just want to add one thing about that bike ride, though. It's a bit hard for me to keep up with Mike over here, with his athletic physique and going to the gym like 5 times a week. It's hard for me to keep up, but I kept up. We had these conversations, and we were having these conversations at Starbucks, overnight. And it was interesting. It was like, I think we were in the midst of COVID as well, and it really forced us to get together over Zoom calls, over basically not during lockdown, but
no forbidden get-togethers.
No, no, just basically Starbucks and late night Zoom calls really kind of got this thing started. And to go back to what Stefano was asking earlier, some of the mistakes that we've had, I think it's just really, we try to boil the ocean very early. We try to tackle so many different things, and we were envisioning this big monster company that we want to build, and we had great ambitions, and that made it very challenging. Because essentially it made it so difficult for us to pinpoint exactly what are the pain points that we need to focus on at the brokerage. And And I find that that was a big mistake, right? It's really about focusing, and I guess we kind of learned that along the way, is that focusing on the little things and achieving it and getting it done is one of the things that we started doing, and then we started seeing a lot better tractions, progress, and yeah, I think that was a mistake early on. So trying to boil the ocean a little too early. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was definitely one of them. I think another one was not being critical enough of the partners, not necessarily the partners, but just the individuals, the people, and the service providers that we chose. You know, when you're starting off, you know, you're a little bit naive, and you're also full of excitement, and you just want to just accomplish these great things, but you're not critical enough of who you're utilizing to accomplish these things. So, you know, we entered into some service agreements with different providers, and some of those providers really didn't meet expectations, and Andrew knows exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. But those expectations weren't met because we didn't have the experience up front, and we didn't go into it with the analytical and critical component to really underwrite. Just as we underwrite policies, we didn't underwrite who we were doing business with. Mm-hmm. And I think that was definitely a learning lesson for me.
Yeah, that's definitely it. So yeah, it's basically, you know, I would say a lesson from there is, you know, make sure you get a good lawyer, you know, before you enter any kind of relationship. So,
but there is this floating thing. We called it before Pasco podcast. Now, your company is called Boardwalk Insurance. I'm assuming because Michael Malfa has the Boardwalk monopoly piece there. What was the story behind Boardwalk?
So I guess this, you know, I'll start here. I think it's essentially the idea of Boardwalk, I guess, was conceptualized, you know, while I was you know, on walking along the Santa Monica boardwalk in California, and that kind of resonated with me, how they made this path so easy. You know, they essentially had this all sandy path, and they created this beautiful boardwalk for people to walk on so that they can go from one end of the beach to the other. And that stuck with me, and I think that's the idea I kind of brought to Michael after that, and it kind of resonated with us, and I like the sound of it because it is, like I mentioned to you a couple of times, Mike, and others as well. It's the most expensive piece on the Monopoly board, and if it's the most expensive property you have, you should protect it, right?
Were your feelings the same way, Mike, on that?
Yeah, I think that's why it really resonated with me. You know, when I'm playing Monopoly growing up, Boardwalk, exactly what Andrew said, it's the most sought after piece on the board. And that is kind of where we wanted to position ourselves as, you know, we're not going to accomplish everything, but what we're going to accomplish is we're going to do things great. We're going to do them with high integrity, high value, and we're going to ensure that, you know, we take that risk protection, that risk mitigation approach along the way. And Boardwalk kind of signified that. So I love the name.
So, but now here we get to a point where I'm reading our notes, and our notes say why most business owners don't understand risk until they land on it. Now, have you guys encountered situations where you're looking at these, you know, $100 million businesses, and they suddenly don't have the right insurance in place, and you're like, oh, something bad could happen and you can lose everything. Did you guys already see that there was a gap, a problem right there?
Yeah, part of our job is doing just that. Part of our job is coming in and kind of bringing these risk exposures to the surface outside of insurance. Before we even get to insurance, which is, you know, loss transfer, we're first doing loss prevention, where we're saying, okay, this is your business. You've built this business up over X amount of years. You have potentially millions or hundreds of millions of dollars invested into this business. Let's ensure that it's protected. What is the downside risk of this business? What are the exposures that you're facing that you may not even be aware of? Because oftentimes that's exactly it, is we don't understand what we need to protect until a loss occurs. So we want to ensure that we want to be proactive, come to the business and deliver that, hey, you know what? This is what we've done an analysis, we've done a due diligence, and we see that there's these unaddressed risks. And let's address them before it's too late and you're going through a claims experience. Mm-hmm. And Andrew, coming from the claims side of the business, I'm sure he can elaborate on that.
Exactly. So I think it's, yeah, sometimes you see certain claims, that essentially, gets denied, their coverages gets denied. And that's when people start to come to a realization that, hey, you know what, I should have done my due diligence way before. And a lot of the time, people don't discover this until much later, right? And
It's too late.
yeah, until it's too late. And I like to use this analogy where, you know, like investing and then in the market, right? Like everybody's a genius when they're investing in a bull market, right? Until things, go south, it's the investors that protected their downside, essentially protected and hedged their risk. And insurance is exactly that. It's a way to hedge your risk in case something happens, right? And the downside is, if a hurricane comes through and wipes out your entire business and facility, you need to have that funding, that capital to get your business back up and running. So I think my approach has always been, exactly that, educating people, letting people know that this, your business is an investment, right? And you need to protect that just like any other investment. If it goes down, you're going to suffer. So it's I've seen many stories, horror stories, where people don't have the right coverages, they don't have the right limits. They never done the proper review on it because they think this insurance is so transactional that it's just now it's an afterthought. So and once they actually do the review, is at the time of claim, and they find out, hey, you know what, I don't have enough coverage for this, so I can only get back, you mean 60% of what I have here? How can I even rebuild a facility, let alone put all the equipment in there? So things like this happen, and it's horrible, actually.
Now, you guys have a team here at Boardwalk Insurance, and as you continue to build your team, you start to bring in the philosophy of the Boardwalk Insurance mentality. How do you guys keep your entire team in check so this way they have the same vision as you guys had that moment that you were discussing? Hey, Boardwalk Insurance could be a big thing.
Yeah, I think it all starts with culture and fit. So it starts from the top. The leaders of the organization need to be very passionate about the direction of the company, the vision of the company, and the values of the company. And then being passionate about it is one thing, but constantly living it is another. You need to constantly live those values, live that vision, and attract the people that can reciprocate that. And finding those people, and getting the buy-in from them, aligning that belief is paramount. And that's what we really try to do here. We really try to attract people, maintain the culture that is focused on transparency. It's focused on customer service. These are some of the pillars that we really focus on here at Boardwalk.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point. This culture and fit is very important. Instilling this culture amongst every individual, is letting them know what the vision is, so everybody's aligned. So building that alignment in the team is extremely important. And I think it's just making everybody at Boardwalk understand their job, right? Like what they do on a day-to-day basis. How does this impact people's lives? Like when they issue a policy, it's not just a policy, it's protection for someone's livelihood, someone's asset, what they built up through their whole life. So I think it's having that understanding and really explaining that to the rest of the team and letting them know that a certificate of insurance is not just a certificate. It's proving to someone else that they have protection. Mm-hmm. It's a piece of proof, to authenticate that. And it's very important what we do here on a regular basis. And I think it's really emphasizing that with the team really encourages them.
I want to share a quick story just to summarize that. Really quick story. It's actually from today, so it's fresh in my mind. Today we had a call with a client, a new prospect. Came in through the website, brand new prospect looking for insurance, a large organization. Our team went out to see this client, and rather than going to the client and trying to sell them a product that we think they need, what the team did, the team actually did a discovery call to understand the needs of the client and to determine mutual fit. Is this client the right fit for Boardwalk? But more importantly, can Boardwalk provide the solutions that this client needs. And at the end of the call, we're not trying to jam products down their throat. We're trying to determine, is Boardwalk the right service provider for you? And I think that just speaks volumes. And this is a true story. I'm not making this up from today.
I think it's fitting for this episode. But now, before we come to the conclusion of it, guys, I have to ask you something that you may or may not want to discuss, but what the hell, why not? Was there ever any near company death situations where Boardwalk Insurance was teeter-tottering on, is it going to make it or is it not going to make it?
You want me to answer that one? I mean, listen,
It's definitely been some close calls.
I think it is, we haven't, luckily, knock on wood, we haven't had any major issues. But that's not to say that there's no challenges that we've encountered. Some of the challenges we've encountered were in the early days. I think just because we were so small and, Michael and I were trying to learn this whole entire business, it made it very challenging to make sure that every aspect of the business is running well and smooth. So I think we were, like a story that I have is essentially early in our business, we've let, I guess, a lot of our managers have the autonomy of making decisions. So I guess they made one of the decisions that essentially costed the company probably tens of thousands of dollars. And we're talking about year one of operation. That was, it didn't shut our doors, but it definitely hurt the bank, right? So I think that's a big lesson, and that was a scary one as well, because we just made that money and it's just leaving our bank account because we just made a mistake.
Yeah.
Right. So
I agree. Cash flow was very tight during that time to begin with, being in year one, and then having that expensive lesson that almost bankrupted us. But we muscled through somehow. And the other thing is constantly, I think the other thing I want to add is burnout. Burnout is real. There's been times when we've had our pedal to the metal for a prolonged period of time. And sometimes you can really wear yourself thin. So you have to be conscious of that. And we've had a few close calls with that.
Yeah. And I think it's the lucky thing is, I consider myself lucky, is that, I have a good partner, right? A good co-founder, that, we kind of pull each other back, when we on that verge of burnout, we kind of talk each other off that ledge. And it's kind of important to have that individual to kind of, pull each other back, once we were standing on that edge, right? So it was a very interesting experience those first few years.
Beautiful.
Thank you for joining us on our first episode of the Pass and Go podcast. On the next episode, you don't want to miss it. We're going to be speaking about the insurance basics, and we're going to be joined again by my co-founder, Andrew Nguyen, and it's going to be a good one. You don't want to miss this next one. But in the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram at myboardwalk or on the web at www.myboardwalk.ca.
Thank you, everyone.